Planes, trains, and automobiles. Not the movie, of course. We're here to talk about the future of travel. In futuristic movies, they paint a picture of flying cars and energy-powered ecosystems, all to make the world a better place. So is that the picture here now? Is it time to rethink sustainable investing, not just for now, but for our future generations? And if so, where? A conversation well worth your 10 minutes only here on UBS Trending. Hi everyone and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm your host, Anthony Pastore. My colleagues from the Chief Investment Office, Amantia Muhedini and Michelle Liberty, are here to give you a little bit of a double take today. And we've got a really interesting topic to get to. But before we get into it, I just wanted to say my commute in this morning, I always take the New York City subway system, which by the way is usually great. But looking around at the subway, it's a little dark. The trains can be a little old. The subway stations sometimes are a little dirty. It's hard for me to sit here and think about the future of this gleaming, clean, energy-efficient transportation that we're about to talk about today. And I know you both also take the subway, so you're nodding in agreement with me as recognition. But Amantia, given my commute this morning, why don't you share with our viewers what you see as the future of some of these developments in transportation?
Yeah, I mean, the future is hopefully brighter, faster, and cleaner. So let's talk
here.
Exactly. Let's talk about trains. So there's a lot of innovation, not just on cleaner train, but faster trains. The world's fastest train right now is in Shanghai, China. It goes at 286 miles per hour, and what that means is that it can go through an 18-mile loop in 7.5 minutes.
Wow.
The coolest thing about this train is that it's not using the old technology of steel wheels on steel tracks. It's using magnetic levitation, right? So that's one example here of technology just starting to change rail transport. Another place where we're seeing this is aviation. So in New York, we just saw the first test of a electric vertical flight, something that could replace helicopters, which us in New York don't love because they are very loud.
They sure are, yes.
Yes, they definitely are. And now this is a test. Another innovation that we're seeing is a major airline is starting a fund to invest $100 million in the development of sustainable aviation fuel. So this could keep our old planes for a while, but change the way that they're fueled to go for this cleaner future that we're also talking about.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I know we talk about the future of a lot of things here in CIO, particularly transportation. So Michelle, what does this imply for the future of aviation specifically? I know we're talking a little bit about what a major airline is thinking about. Maybe you could paint a little bit of a picture for us here.
Yeah, so I would say good news and bad news. The bad news is we're probably not going to be on a flight that's 100% powered by sustainable aviation fuel, say this year. But the good news is, to Amantia's point, we're seeing a lot of development here. And as it stands now, sustainable aviation fuel is a pretty negligible amount of fuel that's used, less than 1%. In fact, one major airline said they use 0.1%. And it's still required to be blended, so it's not 100% yet. But 100% sustainable aviation fuel flights have been tested, so it can be done. And we are seeing this traction build. The first commercial scale production facility for sustainable aviation fuel in North America is underway. It should come online in 2025. So we are, again, seeing a lot of traction build here.
Right. I meant to say before when we were talking about trains that the International Association of Railways says that high-speed rail is actually 8 times more efficient energy-wise than airplanes and 4 times more efficient than a traditional oil-powered, a fossil fuel-powered car. So we're also talking about energy efficiency here a lot with these particular topics. So let me keep going here because many of us are pie in the sky. It's a fantasy, see electric planes and all these things. But electric vehicles are here. People drive them all the time. They're all over the roads. So what's happening in that space?
Sure, I mean, they don't levitate yet. There are still wheels in the ground.
No Back to the Future things going on,
yeah,
right?
No, not yet, but we are seeing them on the roads. I mean, even traveling just a few months ago for client travel to meet our UBS clients, I called ride shares, and 2 of my 3 ride shares in California were electric vehicles. So there you go, just kind of a regular part of life. We're seeing a growth in penetration. It's coming from kind of low single digits, but it's also growing here in the US and in particular in Europe and China. Now, innovation is needed still to help the growth of electric vehicles, and one of the areas that is most exciting is in thinking about batteries. So not just charging of batteries, but also extending the life and duration of batteries and also giving them a second life. So innovation is happening in this idea of battery recycling. I know, Michelle, you talk a lot about this when you think about the circular economy, and that's an area that is going to be so interesting and important to unlock this cleaner future as well.
Right. It's interesting because with EVs, living in New York City, as we all do, I imagine what it would like to have an electric vehicle, but they're hard to charge because if you don't live in a private home, Plug New York City or Plug NYC is a program that was started here 2 years ago in the city, and it's to get people to drive them. But you find one charging station out of 10 blocks, and it's only 2 cables to charge 2 cars at a time. It takes a long time. So there's still some infrastructure issues that I think we have to deal with here.
But still, they're there. They're every 2 blocks. I mean,
That's
or 10
true.
blocks, whatever. Like they're
Maybe
near
it's
your house.
less. I'm certainly
house
not
near you.
That's right. What about my neighbor? Can I come in and charge my car from it? But there is a lot of innovation here. What do you think is spurring some of these developments?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things going on here, right? Of course, globally, we're seeing greater scrutiny on emissions-intensive businesses in general. But one thing I think is really important to discuss is the Inflation Reduction Act. Because when we talk about these still niche, small industries, usually that means production is still expensive. That's the theory behind economies of scale, that at greater units of production, you see cost advantages. But of course, for these niche industries, they're not there yet. The Inflation Reduction Act, though, helps kind of tip that economic scale so that it's a little bit more economical to explore these industries. So there is a $1.75 per gallon tax credit for sustainable aviation fuel production, and that goes through 2027. And it can also be paired with other production tax credits as well for things like green hydrogen or carbon capture.
Right.
So that's really getting more businesses interested in the prospects here. And similar to the battery recycling that you mentioned earlier, we have seen the Department of Energy give out pretty substantial loans recently to a couple different battery recycling initiatives here in the United States.
And that's probably only going to be a business that only gets more and more prevalent as more people get these EVs that have these large batteries in them, as opposed to the traditional cars that have batteries that are this big, still needed to be recycled, et cetera. So Amantia, let me end it with you. What does this mean for investors at this point? How can we invest in the future of transportation? Can we do that just yet?
Sure, I mean, we can, right? We have to think about the various parts of the supply chain here. But what I'll start by saying is we talk a lot about sustainability, we talked about lowering carbon emissions and things like that. And what's important here is that we see an investment opportunity. There's a growth market here. And I don't know, I mean, what would you say in terms of what are the best entry points?
Yeah, so I think it's a good point that you raise here because we do see opportunity across transport in terms of, one good example is the electric vehicle supply chain. We see opportunity from the materials that go into these vehicles to high voltage components makers, for example. But when it comes to something like sustainable aviation fuel, there are public companies out there that are investing here or even starting to produce. But the thing is, they're still very small parts of these very large businesses. So you're going to have other external factors that influence these stocks, right? I think if you're interested in some of these earlier stage, more niche industries, sometimes private markets can get you an opportunity to get in a little bit earlier if you have the appropriate risk tolerance. So there's a lot of different ways to think about this here. But we'll end there in terms of the key points.
And I would say, and something we've spoken about, Michelle, many times is our circular economy. That's something where, especially when you're talking about recycling of batteries, that's a real theme that is prevalent here. And also the smart mobility theme, as we were talking about, it really speaks to the revolution in transportation that's underway. So ways to definitely have that conversation with your financial advisor.
I mean, so many. And look, this was one of those topics that we talked about in the sustainable investing perspectives. But this is not just the US and transportation, right? We're looking at the EU coming in with even more policies to respond to the kind of the US incentives. And so much of this research and space all comes together into these ideas.
Terrific. Thank you both. It's great. It's a great conversation. I wish we had more time to do it, but I think we gave the audience just a taste of what's coming up. Great. Great, thank you both. Good to see you. And for more information from Amantia and Michelle and the rest of the CIO, visit ubs.com/views. That is our insights page. Plus, you can follow us on social media where there's a lot of other content on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter, plus all past UBS Trending episodes, of which my two guests have been on a few along the last few months and years with me. So please take a look at those. And if you have any questions about what we spoke about today and how it could impact your portfolio, make sure to speak with a financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. Have a great rest of your day. And remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. And if you find any good charging stations in NYC, let me know. Take care, everybody.